So we've got a big program today, and one thing we always ask for this is not a passive session. We're already getting you to participate in meditation. There's a lot more. We ask you guys to lean in. There's some incredible expertise in this room. There's incredible expertise in Bali and Indonesia and Southeast Asia, and I know a lot of you guys are here, so please don't be shy. This is about creating discussion, collaboration, and for us to build this stuff together and build what the future looks like. So we really ask that for all of you to lean in, and if you want to see something, like bring it to the table, help us make it happen, and collaborate with others in this room. So who are we? We're really a community of like-minded folks. We just got going in July this year, and a couple of us, Renato, Steve, and I, we did a climate fellowship. We're not from this space. We're not scientists either. We decided that we needed to take action, and we needed to really focus on some of these climate actions or opportunities and finding ways to scale them. So we're like, what can we bring to the table in this discussion? And we found so many other like-minded folks, people that are already doing great work here in the community. And that's what this event and this community is about. Our theory of change is, actually, we've got a lot of the solutions. We're saying that 80% of what we need, at least in the climate space, is already built. But what we really need to do is scale that, get that out to more folks, get that out to people in Indonesia, to people in Bali, to people in Southeast Asia, and really scale this. And all of our events have been focused around scale and acceleration of the climate space, but even today we're going to talk more broadly than that. And that's really our theory. And the other thing is, no one's a passenger on this electric vehicle, so to speak. So we all have a role to play. And one of the big things we've talked about throughout is every job is a climate job. So what skills do you bring? And I challenge you today to think about that. Whether you're an accountant in finance, a marketer, a graphic designer, everybody has a role to play, and we bring something to the table in terms of creating this new future. So what have we covered so far in our 8 days of meetups? We started with climate awareness and education with Ben, incredible speaker, about the work we need to do as individuals and collectively. We had Bruce, who's joining us again today, talk about some of the lessons that we can bring from the tech world in terms of scale and acceleration, and what he's already learned in the Indonesian and Southeast Asian environment. We had Maitri from Eco Mantra and Cal Timber and Block Solutions talk about sustainable building solutions and the opportunity and the white space in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. We also talked about food and nature-based solutions with our friends at Astungkara Way, Urban Compost, and Bali Regenerative Farm. And really the through line of all of this is finding the folks and the organizations that are doing incredible work, putting them up here on the stage, and creating more opportunities for collaboration and cooperation, and bring those ideas forward. So that's what we aim to do again today with our speakers and our panel. And if you are interested to speak, I've already been pointed out a few folks in the room. Come chat to us later. We're always looking for great folks to profile here and to accelerate and be in this mindset of how to make this stuff bigger. So today we're going to talk about impact investment, not a small topic, not just on the climate side either. We're going to actually bite off the social impact space as well and really bring that into play. It's a big job, there's a lot to do, but we're bringing it to you guys to be part of that collaboration and that solution. So yesterday we had an incredible day at Green School. So this is day 2 of our meetup on impact investment. We've devoted 2 days to it because honestly it needs 2 days plus a whole lot more in terms of working on solutions and finding more money and more players in this space. Yesterday at Green School, we had Bruce again share his thoughts from Climate Week. He was there really bringing some of the latest thoughts around priorities and funding opportunities for our region. We also had Matt Leggett, who's here with us today again from Taratai. Incredible practitioner in this space with so much experience. I think, Matt, you're probably set up for a 2-hour presentation next time. So incredible if you want to speak to Matt about the work he's been doing in nature-based solutions now, as well as being an investor in the space. So incredible expertise. And we also had Tommy from Shamrock talking about the Netherlands experience and what we can learn from the European environment. very different regulatory environment than what we have here. So incredible day one at Green School, and we're following on today and even taking a lot of those learnings and bringing that into the presentation decks for today as well. Okay, the team I'd mentioned, a few call outs. We've got a small but mighty team of folks that a lot of us come from the tech world, but we're really excited to bring more folks in this space. And our goal is to say, what can we bring from our experience and combine with the folks in the room and here in Southeast Asia and Indonesia. So it's about an all-in approach. So we've got folks, Ridras in India, and we've got Nadia and Gabriella joining us to support us as well today. So a small team, and stay tuned for some of the additional work and new ideas that we're going to bring to the table in the future. Okay, so again, thank you to Adrian. We've got Bruce coming up after me, and he's going to share some of his experiences at Climate Week. We also have Nicolo, who's with Bali Investment Club, who's doing some incredible work and building some great stuff, I think, in under 3 years in Bali. And we also have Matthias here from Handprint, and he's the CEO and co-founder of an incredible startup that is both Singapore and Bali based. I'm claiming more of the Bali vibe as well, an incredible startup that is operating out of here and doing some incredible work globally. And I think that's the point. A lot of the work that we're doing has a very holistic and global nature and remit. Okay, just to dive into a pretty big topic. So one thing that we're realizing, even through this whole conversation we've had about net zero carbon targets for 2050, right? Like, this is a huge space in itself to solve for. And really that's been the era of sustainable business and sustainability, about trying to do less bad, so do less harm. But we all realize this is only part of the equation and part of the job to be done. We all realize, and I think businesses realizing, governments are realizing, that the bigger piece and the more additive piece is actually regeneration. Regeneration starts at a kind of individual level. How are we regenerating ourselves? Are we regenerating ourselves? Have you guys ever asked yourself that question? That's something I've started asking myself after being years in the tech and business environment, which didn't always feel very regenerative to me. We're also asking each other, what does a regenerative business look like? Do I have a regenerative business? Am I working in one? How do I build a regenerative organization? What does that look like? What are the pillars of a regenerative organization? And then more broadly, I think we're asking governments, we're asking our communities, what does a regenerative planet look like? Is my community regenerative? I think a lot of what's happening even in the last week, not only in Bali, but as you see around the world, is this regenerative for us and the planet? And I think these are all really important questions and leads us into a place of abundance and of creativity, of actually imagining what regenerative looks like for us and our planet. And I really encourage you to lean in and ask yourself that question every time you show up. As Adrian said, what does that look like for you, and how do we build that together? So exciting, big challenges, but big ambition, and a space that feels way more abundant than only, which is already a massive goal, of reducing carbon, right? We reduce carbon, what else do we need to do? How else do we build a planet that we actually want to live on? And a kind of a complicated diagram when I looked at this, but actually I realized really, really simple when I'm like, how do I describe this? It's actually not that hard. Health, or really, I think there's people sitting in the center of this. If we are not focused on health and our own health and people in the world's health, we have nothing. There's no use looking at economies, social environments, political landscapes, or the environment if that's not the core of what we're doing. So we really need to put that at the center of this holistic model. We need to take care of people. We know we need to look at health outcomes. COVID has shown us that. If something like a health crisis takes over the world, nothing else really matters unless we put that at the core of our model. So I really would encourage you, and I think the guys that are going to speak are actually going to talk a lot about this model. And I think the incredible opportunity that we have in Indonesia is to actually hit a bunch of these things at the same time with the ideas and the initiatives that we're working on, and really question ourselves, Are these at cross purposes, or are we finding ways to bring these together and create something incredibly powerful in the process? So bear this in mind. I think this is really built around the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, and it's baked in. But we know that this model, this holistic approach, is what's going to serve ourselves and the planet. And I think something to speak about really in developing Asia is this idea of equity. We can't leave anybody behind in the process. We know that doesn't work as well. It just creates additional tensions between people and communities. And it is a collective approach where we need to bring everybody together and involve everybody in these solutions. So that's something that, you know, is incredibly mindful and at the forefront of what we're also trying to do here. Okay, so what's it going to take? I'd like to see this number as opportunity. 2.5 trillion on an annual basis is what we need to do in the developing world in order to meet some of these sustainable goals that the UN set out. Not a small number, but I like to see that $2.5 trillion in terms of opportunity. Okay, we're at an impact investing event. This creates opportunity. How do we spend that money? What do we spend it on? Is it regenerative? We want to spend that money to really create the future that we want, but what do we spend it on and who are the players? And I think importantly, we know we need to have a number of people at the table, all of the players, and probably new funding and new ways of creating finance in this world if we're going to get this work done. So what if we were like, hey, this is all too hard, 2.5 trillion per year, that's crazy. What if we just do nothing? That is another option. We've kind of been pretty good at that sometimes. But what we're seeing now is that the cost of inaction is actually greater than the cost of doing something. And if you've been in the business world, that creates opportunity. Estimates have said if we don't get to 2050 net zero, 178 trillion in global economic losses. We're not even, seeing the tip of the iceberg, right? That is a hell of a lot in potential losses. However, if we kind of get to net zero just from a climate goal, that creates a 43 trillion opportunity for the planet and a 43 trillion opportunity to do more good and create more change and positive change, right? So we start to reframe this from loss to opportunity, from doing less harm to doing more good, to creating abundance with that $43 trillion. Southeast Asia alone, what's at stake? Bangkok, Jakarta, Ho Chi Minh could be underwater by 2050. We know that 77% of our populations live along the coast and rely on that for their livelihoods. We know our middle class is expected to double by 2050. So if we're going to put money into these economies, let's put money into stuff that's regenerative, is going to create positive change as we go along. And we know that, again, even in the region, $2 trillion of investments within this decade. So incredible opportunity here, incredible white space to do some great new innovative things. Already the folks have been able to identify some key opportunity areas, everything from forest conservation to sustainable farming, renewables, electric mobility, and the built environment. So much white space, or what I might call green space here. And that, again, incredible opportunities to build this and find ways to do this exceptionally well and take best practice and technology from other places and bring the best-in-class stuff to the region. So what is an impact in investment, and how might that be different from what we know as traditional investment? Investments that are made with the intention of creating measurable positive social and environmental impact while also delivering a financial return. So those two things need to go hand in hand. And honestly, if we're going to spend 2.5 trillion, oops, that's my timer, then that financial return is key. We need to build sustainable and regenerative models that work in the business environment as well. One final slide. Looks super complicated again, but it really is saying we need to bring all the players to the table. We need to bring the traditional finance space, the VCs of the world, the institutional money, the banks, the philanthropy, the donors, developing country budgets to this space. this is an incredible ecosystem that we can actually bring together and coalesce around aligning on things that are regenerative, things that are good for us as a planet, and then really increase the economic, social, and environmental impact that we can have collectively. And so if that sounds like a big ask, I'm going to leave you with the wise words of someone way smarter than me in a second. I'm going to actually go to this slide because I think we need to take a pause and just understand like what this is about. Like, what we've said is true. What we've done in the past is not going to serve us for the future. We know that we need to build a whole new level of consciousness, and we need to do this together if we're going to get this work done. And I think it starts with regenerating ourselves and then thinking outward from there, similar to the entire development model that we talk about, and how do we really bring this powerful idea into play as a community and as a planet. Okay, to skip back to today, really what do we want to get done, or what do we want to get started? Because I think this is a huge topic, which I think we'll probably spend a bunch more sessions on. The first is really to look at what are the challenges around impact funding and impact investment. Let's talk about some of the examples of startup founders that are working in this brave new world and creating some of these frameworks and finding these new sources of investment. And how do we all play a role? You might be a startup, you might want to be in the startup world, you might be an investor, you may already be working in sustainability. What roles can we play in helping build this environment together?